All right, we're going to tackle one of the most important architectural questions out there in the Oracle world today. When some event happens in your system, where do you actually put the logic? Let's dive right in, because honestly, getting this right is the difference between a system that's fast and flexible and one that's just stuck in the past. We're starting here for a reason. This is not just a simple technical preference. I mean, pretty much every single Oracle architect is facing this decision, and it has these huge ripple effects on your performance, your costs, and your ability to change things down the road. And this is the question, isn't it? You've probably been in a design meeting where this exact thing comes up. A sales order gets created, an invoice is posted. Okay, what happens next? The answer to that question literally defines your entire architecture. And that's exactly why the stakes are so high here. If you pick the wrong tool for the job, you don't just get a slow process. No, you create a mountain of technical debt that is incredibly painful to try and fix later on. You know, the whole world has changed around this problem. We used to live in this old world of predictable, nightly batch jobs, but that's gone. We're in a new reality now, where your system has to react in real time to maybe thousands of events. The goal isn't just to move data anymore, it's all about reacting fast and scaling smart. Okay, so to make the right choice, you've got to know your tools. Let's break down the three main players in this game: OIC, OCI Functions, and of course, the classic PL/SQL. Each one has its own special superpower. So first up is Oracle Integration Cloud, or OIC as we all call it. Its main job, its whole reason for being, is to act as the backbone for your business processes. Connecting different apps and managing those complex multi-step workflows. Now this is where IOC really shines. It's not about raw blistering speed. It's all about control and visibility. I'm talking about its huge library of native adapters, that visual drag-and-drop designer, and all the built-in error handling. It's purpose-built to manage those tricky transactions that cross multiple applications. I love this analogy because it just nails it. Think of OIC as the conductor of an orchestra. It's not trying to play every single instrument itself. No, its job is to make sure every part of the business process plays in perfect harmony and at exactly the right time. All right, let's look at tool number 2, OCI Functions. This is your serverless born-in-the-cloud option. We're talking about small, self-contained pieces of code that spin up, do one very specific job incredibly fast, and then they're gone. And the best part? You only pay for the tiny fraction of a second that they're actually running. So the key here is to use them for short, sharp, focused tasks. Things like validating a bit of data, maybe adding some extra info to a message, or routing an event to the right destination. You've got to think small, fast, and high volume. In this image shows that classic serverless pattern perfectly. An event happens somewhere out in the cloud. A file gets uploaded, a message lands on a stream, and boom, that event directly triggers the function. There's no orchestrator, no waiting around, just immediate event-driven action. So if OIC is our conductor, then OCI functions are like surgical scalpels. You use them for these very precise, quick, targeted operations, right? You wouldn't use a scalpel to build a house, and you wouldn't use a function to orchestrate a massive, complex business process. And finally, we've got the original powerhouse that lives right next to your data, PL/SQL. Its greatest strength is its address. It lives right inside the database. And because it's right there, there are no network hops, which means PL/SQL is just unbeatable for raw data crunching. When you need to run operations across millions of rows at once and guarantee absolute transactional consistency, nothing is faster or more reliable. Period. And that brings us to its most important rule. It's the undisputed king of the database. But it should never, ever be asked to call a bunch of external systems or manage orchestration. That is a recipe for a brittle, tangled mess of an architecture. So now that we know our tools, let's talk about the mistakes people make. Because understanding these common anti-patterns is honestly just as important as knowing the right way to do things. And here are the two biggest traps you'll see out there. First is what I call the everything in OIC blob, where you see people trying to force OIC to do heavy-duty data processing. The other is the PLSQN integration hub, where the database gets totally bogged down trying to make external API calls, which is just not what it's for. And the results of falling into these traps? Well, they're pretty bad.
Both of them lead to slower systems that cost more to run. The integrations themselves become these fragile, monolithic nightmares that are impossible to test, a pain to debug, and a headache to maintain.
So, if those are the traps we need to avoid, what's the right way forward? Let's take a look at the modern hybrid pattern that actually uses the best of all three of these tools. This table is a fantastic summary. It just lays it all out so clearly. You can see their distinct roles: OIC for orchestration, functions for that quick event-based compute, and PL/SQL for the heavy data processing. They all have different scaling models, different cost structures, and totally different best-fit use cases. And this right here, this is the solution. This is the pattern that works. So, a business event happens over in Fusion. OIC, our conductor, is listening for it. It then orchestrates the whole workflow. Maybe it calls an OCI function for a quick stateless data transformation. And then it calls a PL SQL API to do the heavy transactional work in the database. See? Each layer does exactly what it's best at. Okay, so how do you actually put this into practice on your next project? Well, it really just boils down to a simple decision framework. Just ask yourself these three simple questions. Number one, is this about business process orchestration? If the answer is yes, you start with OIC. Number two, do I need some stateless, really fast event-based logic? That sounds like a perfect job for an OCI function. And number three, is the core task just heavy data lifting inside the database? Well, then let PL SQL do what it does best. So I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Take a hard look at your current systems. Are they actually built to react to business moments as they happen, or are they just kind of recording them after the fact for some batch job to find later on? The answer to that question will tell you everything you need to know about whether you're ready for the future.